The wait is finally over, and for fans of the Boston Celtics, it couldn't come soon enough. After months of dissecting every offseason quote, overanalyzing preseason training footage, and trying to predict rotation based on who's sweating the most in practice, we finally get what we've all been craving: actual basketball. Real games, real minutes, real moments to judge, celebrate, or panic about. Tonight, the Celtics tip off their preseason campaign against the Memphis Grizzlies, and that alone is enough to inject a fresh dose of adrenaline into every Celtics fan's bloodstream. No more endless debates about hypothetical trades or whether Jaylen Brown's dribbling has somehow evolved based on a 10-second Instagram clip. Now we get to watch it unfold for real. There's a particular buzz in the air this time, too. Maybe it's because this preseason carries more questions than usual. Can Jaylen Brown show up as the all-NBA level player he believes he is? Is Peyton Pritchard going to play like a man possessed again? What's the situation with the big men? And can we please, for once, see this team stay healthy enough to build some actual rhythm before the regular season begins? It's wild how a meaningless October game against Memphis can feel so important. But that's the nature of being a Celtics fan. We live and die with every play, even in the preseason. The Celtics' preseason schedule is packed into a tight little window. After tonight, they hit the road again on Friday. Maybe Toronto, maybe Cleveland, doesn't matter. And then they'll finally get back to TD Garden on Sunday. That's when things will really start to feel real. But even now, even before the ball goes up tonight, there's a sense that this season has a different kind of pressure, a different kind of energy. Last year's roller coaster, capped with another playoff disappointment, left a strange taste. And while some fans have leaned into the tank mentality, others, maybe most, are still trying to believe that there's enough talent here to make one more real run. It's fair to say this team is in a strange middle ground. On one hand, you have a core that's been contending for almost a decade. On the other, you have cracks in the foundation that you just can't ignore anymore. Tatum and Brown are entering their prime years, but questions still linger. Can they finally click at the same time, in the same system, under the same coach? Can Mazzulla find a rotation that actually works when the games matter most? Can the young guys, like Jordan Walsh and others, really step up and give this team something beyond just energy minutes? If you're trying to predict how this season goes, good luck. This could be a team that wins 48 games and stuns people with a top 3 seed. It could also be a team that flirts with the play-in tournament and finishes barely above .500. That unpredictability is part of the drama this year. But if you're asking for predictions, and let's face it, we're all throwing darts at this point, let's throw some out there. Call it hopeful. Call it delusional. But it feels like a 45-37 type of year. Not amazing, but solid. Something that keeps you in the mix without giving you false hope of being title favorites. It's the kind of season that ends with a 6 seed and a tough first-round matchup, but still feels like progress compared to what could have been. Now, depending on who you talk to, that projection will either sound like a win or a waste of time. There are some fans who believe that if you're not competing for a title, you should be tanking. But this Celtics roster doesn't feel like a tanking roster. It never did. There's too much pride, too much history, and too much talent to just roll over. This isn't a team that's going to mail it in and hope for lottery luck. The culture won't allow it. And frankly, the Eastern Conference isn't strong enough for Boston to be completely irrelevant unless they go out of their way to be. Look around the East right now. It's in flux. The Bucks are aging. The Sixers are in a constant state of drama. The Heat always find a way, but they've also shown their limitations. Teams like the Knicks and Cavs are climbing, but they're not unbeatable. That opens the door for a team like Boston to make some noise if they can get their act together. You don't need to be a juggernaut to survive in the East. You just need to be consistent, healthy, and opportunistic. And the Celtics, for all their flaws, still check more boxes than most of their competition. What's different this year is that fans seem to have adjusted their expectations. There's a sense of realism creeping in. Not pessimism, not apathy, just a clear-eyed view of where this team stands. The championship window isn't slammed shut, but it's not wide open either. That doesn't mean the team needs to hit the panic button. Sometimes being competitive while also figuring things out is enough. Sometimes The middle is okay, especially if you're smart about it. Think about what the Warriors did when Curry got hurt. They didn't panic, they repositioned. Boston could go that route in the future. But not yet. Not this year. That's why this preseason feels like it matters. It's not just about seeing who looks good in limited minutes. It's about setting a tone. This is Joe Mazzulla's first full season where it's really his team. No interim tag. No Ime Udoka cloud hanging over the franchise. Just his guys, his system, his voice. That matters. So now we find out if he can coach at this level. Not just on paper or in press conferences, but in the trenches when it's game 82 and the season's on the line. He might not be the most polished, but there's something to be said about continuity. Having familiar faces like Jalen, Pritchard, and White, plus young talent finally getting a real opportunity, gives you a foundation to build on. This might not be the Celtics of a few years ago, the team that walked into every season as the East favorite. But that doesn't mean they're irrelevant. This year, they might not be feared, but they should be respected. They're going to play fast. They're going to be weird. They're probably going to be a league pass favorite because they'll have nights where they drop 130 and give up 128. They're not going to grind teams down like the old grit and grind Grizzlies, but they will throw unpredictable lineups and pace at you that make every game fun or exhausting, depending on your point of view. And from an individual perspective, there are a few names to circle. Jaylen Brown is ready to go off. All-NBA potential, 25 points per game kind of season. It's on the table. Peyton Pritchard, now fully unleashed, could easily flirt with 19 points, 5 boards, and 5 assists per game. Anthony Simons is another guy who could quietly put up big numbers in this system. And then there's the wild card, Neemias Queta. Some people still don't know the name, but the ones who do, they're all in. A walking double-double if he's given the minutes. The Portuguese prince who might just become the surprise fan favorite of the season. It's this mix, the known and the unknown, that makes this version of the Celtics fascinating. Not perfect, not dominant, but fascinating. A team with just enough firepower to make things interesting and just enough flaws to keep us on edge. Whether that leads to a playoff run or an early exit, we'll see. But for the first time in months, we get to stop guessing and start watching. And that alone is worth getting hyped about. And while the Celtics are finally about to take the floor again, there's been another storyline brewing quietly off the court. One that adds a completely different dimension to this team's identity. Jason Tatum, the face of the franchise, was named Chief Basketball Officer at Duke University. Now sure, to the average fan, this might sound like a meaningless title, a vanity label that means nothing beyond a couple of ceremonial appearances. But it's more than that. It's about presence. It's about legacy. And most of all, it's about leadership. Tatum didn't spend 4 years at Duke. He was a one and done. But that single season left a deep enough impact that he's now choosing to invest in the very institution that helped launch his career. And that matters. In an era where loyalty in basketball is rare and college hoops have become more of a stopover than a destination, this kind of connection to a school shows a different side of a player who's often been criticized for being too reserved, too emotionless, too distant from the grind. What Tatum is doing here is telling these kids, these 18 and 19-year-olds, that he's not just a highlight reel to aspire to, but someone who remembers what it's like to be in their shoes. Someone who actually wants to help. When he told the Duke players, "If you need anything, hit me up," he meant it. He gave out his real number. And that sounds small, but it's a powerful gesture. Most guys give the same speech. "If you need something, I'm here." Then they disappear, fly back to the NBA world, and never engage again. Tatum's saying, "No, seriously, call me." That's mentorship. That's stepping into a leadership role beyond your own team, beyond your city, and into a broader basketball culture. That's not just good PR. That's character. And it just might be the kind of off-court development that translates into something bigger on the court. Because let's be honest, Tatum still has something to prove. Not in terms of talent. We know he can score with the best of them. But in terms of leadership, of being that guy, the anchor, the tone setter, the one who holds the team together when things go sideways. Moments like this Duke announcement show us that he might be turning that corner. He's stepping into his grown man era. not just by dropping 30 points a night, but by understanding what it means to carry something bigger than yourself. That's the energy Boston is going to need this season if they're going to rise above the noise. And speaking of noise, there's a whole lot of it coming from elsewhere in the league, specifically from the LeBron James media machine. And look, LeBron deserves all the praise he gets. One of the greatest careers of all time, still putting up monster numbers deep into his 30s, redefining longevity in the modern NBA. But sometimes, man, it's hard not to roll your eyes. This week, he teased an announcement, built up anticipation. And what was it all for? A commercial, a Hennessy spot, not some self-aware parody of the decision, not a clever wink at the past, just another high-budget, low-impact piece of branding. And it's moments like this that show the difference between where the league is going and where it's been. The NBA's future won't be built on overhyped commercials and choreographed narratives. It'll be built by guys like Tatum, who quietly show up, do the work, and give back to the places that built them. Not because they have to, because they want to, because it means something. That's not to say branding is bad or that players shouldn't capitalize on their value. They absolutely should. But there's a fine line between owning your narrative and overselling it. And this time, LeBron missed the mark. And while we're at it, we might as well talk about the Harrison Barnes AI music video. Yes, that's a real sentence. AI-generated graphics, awkward animation, and a weird attempt to go viral for something that, frankly, looks like it was created on a 10-year-old laptop. Barnes has made hundreds of millions in his career. You'd think he could afford to hire someone who actually knows how to produce music or visuals. Instead, we got double dribbles and cringe. And it's a perfect example of what happens when players start chasing algorithms instead of just hooping. Which brings it all back to the Celtics. This team, despite its flaws and limitations, feels grounded in basketball. Not gimmicks, not distractions. Basketball. And that's refreshing in today's NBA. You've got guys like Peyton Pritchard, undersized, overlooked, but relentlessly driven. He's not flashy, but he gets it done. You got Anthony Simons, maybe not a household name yet, but a guy who could quietly average 20-plus and wreck second units. You've got young guys like Neemias Queta trying to carve out real roles and make an impact without any hype machine behind them. And you've got Tatum, now showing he's thinking beyond his own box score and into the future of the game itself. But before we continue, please remember to subscribe to the channel and give the video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest news about the Boston Celtics. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. Basketball fans in the hub may want to sit down for this one. Rumors are swirling that Jusuf Nurkic, the towering center known for his bruising presence in the paint, has reportedly landed in Boston in a lightning-fast move that has left the NBA world buzzing. Sources close to the team claim that the Celtics have pulled off a surprise deal to bring the Bosnian big man to TD Garden, and whispers suggest it could shake up the Eastern Conference in ways no one saw coming. Insiders hint that the transaction came together in a matter of hours, with Celtics management reportedly acting decisively to secure a player who can immediately bolster their interior defense and add a new dimension to their frontcourt. NURKIĆ, who has been a force on both ends of the floor wherever he's played, seems poised to become a key piece in Boston's ongoing pursuit of championship glory. Fans on social media have already exploded with speculation, debating how his arrival might change the team's rotation and whether he could form a dominant duo with Boston's existing stars. The timing of the move has only added fuel to the rumor mill. Just as the Celtics were dealing with questions about their depth in the paint, NURKIC's sudden arrival hints at a front office willing to gamble big and move quickly to address weaknesses. Some league analysts suggest this could signal a shift in Boston's strategy, with an eye toward immediate contention rather than long-term development. Others, however, caution that chemistry questions loom large. Integrating a player of NURKIC's caliber mid-season is rarely straightforward. Meanwhile, fans are already speculating about the potential matchups. Imagine NURKIC patrolling the paint against the Eastern Conference heavyweights, contesting shots, crashing the boards, and setting screens for Boston's perimeter stars. The Celtics faithful have reason to be excited, but also wary. After all, blockbuster moves often come with as many questions as answers. Whether this whirlwind acquisition will be the spark Boston needs or just another dramatic headline in an unpredictable season remains to be seen. One thing is certain. TD Garden just became the center of one of the NBA's most tantalizing rumors, and everyone is watching to see if it will materialize into a game-changing reality. Stay tuned, because if the whispers are true, Boston basketball is about to enter a bold new era. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Boston Celtics, please subscribe to our channel and give the video a like. We always appreciate your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.